I feel incredibly lucky to be the first European Space Agency project astronaut going on a commercial flight being sent by the agency. A new way of getting up to the space station this way for the European space community, and it's great to be a pioneer in that. The training we have received is really good, and I feel that we are on a very good path to be, we will definitely be ready to go when it's time. What can be challenging with the training is that there's a lot of information coming in, and what you need to do is to take that information and put to place and try to build a puzzle. You get these puzzle pieces and build that puzzle, because then it's easier to remember. There's a lot of bits and pieces coming in and to make the whole of that, and that's actually starting to come together now after a few months of training, which is really good.
T-res is not less than 10. Nobody's hypoxic. Anybody hypoxic?
It's always fun to train with the whole crew because then you're doing teamwork and that type of training. When you do one-to-one training, it's very efficient because you have one instructor and you can ask all the questions and get down to all the details in a very efficient way. Examples of emergencies that I've learned to deal with are the big general fire or depressurization, and also the specifics connected to the Columbus module in those type of emergencies. One of the things that will be great to experience is microgravity. I've experienced quite a lot of higher gravity in my former fighter pilot, test pilot career, and now there will be no gravity, which will be interesting to both cope with, but also try to manage. I'm looking forward to that challenge.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Daniel Skuka. I work for the ESA Communication Department. Welcome to the European Space Agency Astronaut Centre in Cologne, Germany. We are here today to meet with ESA project astronaut Marcus Wandt as he prepares for his Muninn mission to the ISS early next year. Our session today will take place in English, and I would ask that any of the questions you pose, you ask them in English so that we can all understand. Also, we are live to the web. We're being streamed via ESA Web TV. When asking your questions, please state your name and your affiliation, your media affiliation. Our briefing is hybrid. We actually have a number of media representatives joining us today via WebEx. Later on, as we're taking questions from in the room, we'll also take some questions via WebEx, which my colleague Lorraine Conroy, responsible for media relations, will post to me here on my phone. So we're pretty high tech at the Astronaut Centre. Our session will run about 3/4 of an hour. When we're finished, we'll have a photo opportunity and some interview opportunities here in the foyer. At 1600, you're welcome to meet here again in the foyer, and we can take you on a tour of our astronaut training facilities, which you just saw some of the highlights in our trailer. And of course, you can continue asking questions not only to Marcus, but also to the training team. I'll come back to you when we finish up with a couple more admin announcements, but without any more update from me, it is my pleasure to introduce to you ESA astronaut Matthias Maurer, to ask him for a few opening words, and then to introduce Marcus. Matthias, if you'd come up on stage.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a real pleasure to have you here in the European Astronaut Centre. It's a sunny day outside, and it's also a sunny day for us in space. Lots is going on. The ESC is the only place in Europe where we train astronauts, currently for flights to the International Space Station in low Earth orbit, but we're also preparing to the future. And the future will bring us further away from planet Earth. Direction is the moon. And maybe when you entered this building, before coming here, you saw a construction site just opposite here of ESA. That's where we are building currently the new lunar facility, a unique asset where we will test technology, develop technology, and train astronauts to fly to the moon. And the big ambition that we have there is that this will be among the best facilities worldwide, so that also hopefully everybody who flies in the future to the moon comes here to get the final training and the final exposure and final preparation here in the lunar facility. Today we have a different focus. Today ESA is also paving the way to the future. We have now the very first project astronaut here that is flying on a commercial partnership between ESA and a commercial provider. And this is Marcus, and in a few minutes he will tell us a bit more about it. In parallel, we also have the basic training ongoing here of the astronaut class of 2022, and we're also advancing very much in the fly study. But okay, Marcus, I think now is your time here. Please join me on stage. And yeah, big applause. It's all your applause. Yeah. So last year you were part of the ESA selection 2022. You were part of the astronauts who were chosen or selected on the reserve list. And I think the last year was extremely exciting for you. So why don't you give us a short wrap up what has happened in the last year to you?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Matthias. It's great being here. And yeah, it was only a year ago. At the same time, so much has happened, so it feels like a long time ago that I was selected for the ESA Astronaut Class 2022, which was, of course, a great feeling. I was that day is very special. I was very, very happy. And going back to Sweden, actually during the selection, I started to learn about what was going on in space more globally, and what was happening in the industry and in the agencies and all the projects that was ongoing. And that continued after the selection, of course. That interest got even higher. And just realizing how much development that was going on, and then kind of a new space era coming up. I really want to be a part of that. It felt like space were coming closer, definitely, but it still felt fairly remote to actually go there. So when that happened, when this additional space flight came up, and ESA Sweden was very decisive on this, and together with ESA and Axiom to be able to provide this and actually employ this project astronaut concept and be the pioneer in that, well, is of course fantastic. And it happened pretty fast. So all of a sudden, end of April, I was standing in Houston, started training, and now 7 months later, I'm standing here doing the last training week in Europe, a couple more weeks in US, and then it's time. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So what were the training highlights so far for you?
So the training has been really good. It's very intense, and there's a lot of different components. So it's nominal operations with the vehicles, both the Dragon and the Falcon, then also the ISS, of course. And it's also emergency training, and then it's all the medical parts and the science training and the outreach we're going to do from space as well, both before, during, and after. And then it's of course the teamwork, the crew, the people that we're working with, both in the Dragon and on ISS, and also on ground. And that's a very big part of this, and it's something that I enjoy a lot, to be able to work together with people that are really passionate about what they're doing. And I can feel that just this morning, sitting here in the training hall, doing this training, and all the discussion that sparks, oh, that's interesting, we're doing this science, we're learning this, and couldn't you do that? Yeah, that's in our next project. And that whole willing and that inspiration and that will to move our boundaries for knowledge and where we can go is something I love. So I'm really, really happy to be here for that.
Yeah, and your crew is also very special. You have 4 fighter pilots in there. So maybe you have some words on your crew.
Yeah, it's a very Air Force. Actually, the commander is from the Navy, though, but he's a pilot, and we're that's something that's I think is making it was easier for us to really quickly started talking about checklists and being from that. So I guess that goes for a lot of teams that you put together. You find common grounds, and then you start from there and you build that team. So it's been a very efficient crew with I would say a lot of harmony as well. So some of the learning, some of the training is quite challenging, but still it's feeling like the team is helping each other out and we get in there really fast. And when we learn what we need to do, and then we use the next session to consolidate and agree, yeah, this is how we're going to do it, and what if this happens and that happens. So those discussions are really interesting, stimulating, and it works out well in the crew.
And currently we have another European on board of the International Space Station. Actually, Andy Mogensen is commander of the International Space Station. He's looking forward to welcoming you on board. I heard you also have experiments together.
Yeah, that's right. That's great. It will be, if everything holds up, it will be 2 Scandinavians in space at the same time. Also looking at the mission name, mine is Muninn, his is Hugin, like the 2 ravens of Odin flying over Earth, getting information, getting it back to Earth. And Andy and I have been communicating a lot, and we're really looking forward to working together on space. And some of the science experiments are, just as you say, a cooperation between Sweden and Denmark, and which is also great. All this, everything that's happening here within this program is about cooperation and to have a vision and a clear path forward and a desire to learn more, and that's something that I think go through all of this.
So this is also the end of your trip to ESA, and what is coming between now and your launch?
Yeah, that's right. So this, when this week is done, I'm completed here at ESA. I'll go over to US, to Houston, and then actually to Marshall in the US also to learn a little bit more about the payloads that we're working on, some of the experiments, and also to meet the people, to know the team that I will be talking to from space, just as I've done here in Munich in Europe. And after that, back to SpaceX to do more the last Dragon training, or at least the last in Hawthorne. And then a couple of more things at NASA, and then it's time. Time to enter quarantine, time to step out on the pad, go in the elevator, strap in, listening for the countdown, watching it, starting to feel the vibrations, I guess, and then just all that force building up and go into space. That's something I'm looking forward to.
Wonderful. I guarantee you there's an adventure ahead of you, and ESA will take good care of you.
Yeah.
So, Daniel, shall we continue then with the question and answers?
We can, and we're ready to take questions. If you'd like to ask a question, we've got a couple of mics in the room. It's myself and Anya. We can run over with the mics, and there's no particular order, so it's really it's an open floor. So. And please state your name and which media.
So Andreas Kranz, I'm here for Reuters news agency. So what we learned is that your fly up to the sky is a commercial thing, and this is it's not a commercial thing, but you are going, this is a very new thing of going an astronaut. Can you please explain us some words about what you think about commercial tourists going there, or the opportunity for you as a professional astronaut using this kind of transport system?
Yeah, so I think there are a lot of different reasons to go to space and to explore, and so this is a commercial flight, but it's a science-based mission, and it's really so from the ESA perspective, it's the same as context-wise, as ESA is doing normally. Though it's a different way of gaining access to space. So to pioneer this track and to be a part of gaining the benefits of having commercial actors actually being able to get human space flights done, that's awesome. And it only provides more efficiency and more opportunities to get up there and to continue push our boundaries and gain more knowledge. So it feels fantastic. And actually, I have to say that this cooperation and this way of doing it, and the ambition and where we are going with this mission, way exceeds my expectations. So it's really good. I'm impressed by the organizations and the way they have been able to, in this short time, to adapt and realign and get things done in a new way. It's really good.
An additional question, and what do you think about that there will be like tourists, like people who are not professional astronauts on the same, you are joining together with them the space. What do you think about this this, yeah, it's a new thing. So
there is not that kind of flight is not this mission, but there is a place for that as well. Why wouldn't you be able to go on experience space, for instance, just as you experience Earth in different ways? This is not that mission at all, but there's definitely a place for that as well. So I endorse all space flight, actually. So yeah, everyone should be able to go to space.
Thank you, Marcus. More questions?
Hello, yeah, my name is Marcus Pettersson. I'm from the Swedish podcast Have We Gone to Mars Yet? And I want to ask you, because now you're doing a 2-year training during a 6-month period. Can you tell us more about the training? How intense is it to do this training in this space?
Well, not everything is in there, parts are picking out, but it's very intense, you're right. It started out with a communication, can you be in US this time? And yes, I can, and then I went over there, and so day 1 was probably a little bit more, this is the building where you will be, those are the buildings, other buildings you will be, and then day 2, we started right off the bat, full program. Actually that day, I think it was food tasting and getting ready for spacesuit fitting, and that was day 2 in my training. So the learning curve have been like this, which is something I like, and sometimes it's been challenging in the way that I have to keep pace to make sure that I get all the information and put it there. Also make sure that I remember what I need to remember, and I think that's probably the most challenging. I get that question sometimes. What's the most difficult about the training? And it's probably to have all those islands of information, bridge between them and make it a whole, and then also revisit them often enough to be current when we go. Because that is also something I did 5 months ago and needs to be current when I go now, so to revisit that. But that's also something I'm actually used to from the Air Force when you do a lot of different missions and you revisit to make sure that you have that currency and that you will be proficient when going. So yeah, it's very intense, but it's also a lot of fun.
Hi, my name is Jonas. I'm from the Swedish National Space Agency, and I have a question about research. You're basically like a guinea pig in sorts. Could you tell us more about the preparation before you go up and what's going to happen in space and afterwards? Like a time plan of that, or? Yeah.
So when it comes to where I'm the guinea pig or the test subject for the science, there is something called BDC, so baseline data collection, and we're getting data, mostly medical data, now on ground before, and then some is collected on board up in space, and then the program will continue after splashdown, making sure that we get the data and can compare. And there are several different scientific projects and experiments that I'm involved in for that. And that is one part of what I'm doing here right now and what I did 2 weeks ago here as well to get all that data. And there is a great facility over here where all that equipment exists. So that's where I'm going to reside for a while after coming back.
Thank you very much. Again, more questions?
Annandag vår forskning och framsteg. Being an astronaut is a very special task because it's so much in the public eye. So how much is outreach? And what do you think about that part of the work? And does it ever interfere with the other things that you are doing?
That's a great question. Thanks for that question, because you are so right. It's really important to do the outreach. Yes, time management is important here. So sometimes you say, okay, I need to learn this, but I also want to tell everyone about what I'm learning, because this is not me going to space. This is us going to space. So if I fail in communicating that would be, to me, in my eyes, that would be not mission accomplished. And of course, there are 24 hours on a day, so you have to manage that in a while, but I'm trying to find that balance. I also get good help with that, to communicate what we are doing and what I find important. And then hopefully people ask me questions and also come back with what they think important, and I'm learning from them. And I think that outreach part is a very big part of this for doing it. I also receive the questions sometimes about, what's mission accomplished for you? What is it? And of course, I want to finish all the tasks, get all the data for our scientists, do all the things I want to do and try up there, and be there and absorb it. But also outreach and spreading that knowledge, and maybe inspiring someone or people enough to pursue the exploration and moving the human boundaries, and then by that inspiring even more and creating a cascade effect where we can, a couple of generations from now, say, well, our space exploration this time made a difference. That would be mission accomplished for me, and that's it will be very hard to measure, but if I have the feeling that that is happening, then I will be very happy, and outreach is a big part of that.
Thank you. Next question, or me or Anya? I might just jump in with a question myself, and as I mentioned, my name is Daniel Skuke. I'm working in ESA communication. One of the questions we've seen being asked in social media recently is, how do the new astronauts, you're a part of the new class, how are you interacting with the old-timers, such as Matthias? What are some of the tips and tricks that they're passing on to you? That
Yeah, that's there is, I would say, a lot of interaction going on for considering the time, and we're discussing. I talked to several of the astronauts from Matthias' class, and to learn about things that's difficult to get in training, that you almost have to have someone telling you how their experience was, and then to be able to ask those questions back and forth. And as an example, where I will be sleeping on the ISS is exactly where Matthias started to, he built that home, and I will be there, right? And some of the small things, that this is how the sound will be, this is how you manage this and that, so small details that will make a big difference for me is invaluable, right? It's great things, and that's generally what I get when I interact with astronauts that's been there.
Yeah, and like I was up there in space when the very first Axiom 1 crew came up there. Now we have the Axiom 3 crew. There has been a huge evolution, like in how these missions are run and performed. And so I think I can share one of the older knowledge and share like how you sleep in CASA, the European crew quarters in the Columbus module. Also, like the Columbus module will be the center of the Axiom mission. It will be kind of your core module. A lot of activities ongoing on there, and I'm more than happy to share this experience.
Thank you. Again, over to our media guests. Are there any questions? And we've just, either of us can bring you the mic. Please don't be shy. We're here for you. Yep.
Maybe a quick question of what are you most looking forward to then during the mission?
Yeah, that's a tough question because there are so many things. But a couple of things. So, of course, the launch will be a big new experience, which I think will be pretty strong. And also, my background working with fighter jets, I'm looking forward to reaching a new level of thrust, of power, and also speed. And then getting on station, floating through the hatch, and meet people up there. That would be fantastic. Just go up there and see, there are humans here in this space station. We're in space together. That will be awesome as well. And just floating down into the cupola with the windows and see Earth and space and the thin atmosphere at the same time, and just try to absorb that and see what my brain does with that impression. That's also something I'm really looking forward to.
Thomas von Heine, Swedish television. When you started telling people back home, I'm actually going to space, more than about half a year from now, what was the biggest misunderstanding that people then told you?
The biggest misunderstanding, do you mean regarding how that worked?
What your work will be like, what you are going to do?
Yeah, so...
Flying into space.
A couple of things. So when I said that I was selected for the astronaut class, and at that point I was not at the point where I thought it was actually going. I got questions like, "Oh, okay, so how many times have you been to space now since have been selected for this?" I'm like, "Oh, no, 0." So okay, that's where it starts. So that was kind of a misconception from how do you actually get to space, or how often do you do that? And on the other end, it's been people asking, "Oh, so you're going to go there and for how long?" "Okay, I'm going to be docked 14 days, and then how? But what are you going to do? What are you going to just float around?" So no clue about what we're actually doing there, which is also a great question to get, because then you get the opportunity to talk about that, right? And when you start to describe the science that's being done, the outreach that's being done, what we're looking forward to, the possibilities of on-orbit manufacturing and or on-orbit service, and then the whole exploration part, and people, you can see how they're like, "Wow, I had no clue about this." And that's also awesome, and that's fully understandable. But it's also great to be able to say that and see that someone actually likes what's, "Oh, that's great, so then it makes sense." Yes, it makes sense. That's exactly what I think as well. Now too about that, and that would probably be the two extremes of misunderstandings of what we're doing in space.
Thanks.
Marcus, John McFall, fellow classmate.
Yeah, that's so good.
So jealous. One question. Astronauts often take mementos with them. What are you going to take?
Yeah, so I have a couple, and something that I really looking forward to deploying, so to speak, is to float into Casa and put up my small Lego dudes that my kids have built. So they built themselves as they see themselves in Legos. So I will have them with me up there in Gaza. That I'm looking forward to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Andy will be proud as well.
Say again?
Andy will be proud as well.
I will be proud. I'll have those. I see them. I'll be proud. Yes.
Thanks. One more?
Yes, sorry. So I think my last question about this tourism was because I was not well informed. So just give me, who's going to come with you on this fly?
Thank you.
Because it's not tourists, it is scientists. And what is the crew about?
Thank you. Yeah, that's good. I should have clarified that. Okay, so in my crew we have Mike, who is former NASA astronaut, been to space several times. He was commander of AX-1 as well, so he's for Axiom. And then we have Walter from the Italian Air Force, been in astronaut training for a long time, been in this business for a long time as well, also doing science experiments, outreach, same thing. And then we have Alper from Turkey, the first Turkish astronaut, and also doing science experiment outreach. So there's no private, there's actually nothing private about this, it's all governments, yeah.
Thank you very much. Oh, there's another question in the back. Oh, two questions. Anya, you get that one, I'll get this one.
Yeah, hi, Marcus. Thanks for all the impressions already. Just a quick question. Although it's not a super long stay, is there anything you think you might miss when you're up there?
Yes, I think, so something that I'm really looking forward to is to experience microgravity for a long time and see how that feels. But also, I think I now and then will miss gravity. Probably want to put something somewhere, or maybe when falling asleep and I can't feel that nice pressure from the pillow towards my head. Yeah, those things I would probably miss. And of course, my family, but that's a longer, during this whole training, I don't see them too much, so I miss them all the time. But it's still, yeah, it's for good things, so I like it anyway.
I guess you will miss some sleep up there, because it's a short duration mission and you want to take the most out of it.
Yeah, I think you're painfully right about that, yes.
Yeah, Marcus Pettersson, have we gone to Mars yet again? So as you are aware, you are going to space. So and it's a hostile environment. Is there anything that scares you or worries you about going to space or being in space?
Not really when it comes to being scared, but I know though that there are risks. It's an environment that's really challenging, but having done this training and seeing how we identify the risks, mitigate them by looking at the likelihoods and the possible consequence, and then finding ways of lowering those likelihoods, or taking care of the consequence so it's acceptable, have built good confidence. And that's also something I'm used to from the test pilot job, to see, okay, here's a risk, what can you do about it? And when you can't do anything more about it, is this acceptable for the value it adds? And if the answer is yes, then I'm comfortable with that. And that's also something I think when you're afraid of something, a lot of times I think that's because you don't know what's out there. It's a bit, you're uninformed, or you don't know what could happen, what would happen. And the training have provided me with a lot of knowledge, and I've asked all the instructors so many questions, and also all the organizations involved in this, ESA, NASA, SpaceX, Axiom, everyone. And they have provided me with really good information and answers. So no, I would say there's nothing, but there, yeah.
Thank you. Another question?
Hi, Bert Vis, Netherlands Space Society. You just told us something of the things that you're looking forward to. Is there anything that you're really not looking forward to?
Is there anything I really not? Yeah, so maybe same thing as you when I go fly. Eventually I have to get out of the cockpit, so I'm not looking forward to this ending. So I guess that would be the only thing. So no, when it comes to the mission, no, I think there will be challenges, of course, but I tend to, if there's something that's not comfortable or that is, I tend to turn that to be interesting, like an observation, like, oh, that's interesting. I don't like this. Why do I not like this? So no, I'm looking forward to those expressions. Then I can come back and tell you about that, which is also interesting, right? So yeah. Yeah. Hasn't happened yet though. Launch delay. No, yeah.
Thank you. Another question? Excuse me. Oh, right, yeah. That's right. Rosita just reminded me. Could you, so across the entire scientific program, during your mission, if you could highlight, or would you highlight one or two or three of the experiments that really you're interested in? That I think some of them are probably like work.
Yeah. First, I have to say I'm very interested in all of them. So every time there comes a presentation of what I'm going to do, I'm like, oh, that's super interesting. And I always ask, why is it important to do this in microgravity? And there's always a really good answer, which is also great. So a few, just for example, we have 3 science projects that I'm involved. I'm just picking 3 now. Where I'm the subject. So that's one where I will be on different places on station and see how that affects my cognitive performance and how I feel in the stress level. And another where I'm not the subject, but just moving stem cells from the Dragon capsule that comes up onto station and make sure that they gets exposed in a controlled way for the microgravity and then bring them back. And then the one where, which is those 2 were Swedish, and then there's one cooperation between Denmark-led and Sweden is in, where we're looking at lightning from space and getting visual information about that and learning about the weather systems and lightning effects. So those would be 3. And there I'm an operator collecting the data. So that's the 3 examples of one where I'm the subject, one where I'm just doing mechanical work or doing something where you have to have a human there to do it, and then one where I'm actually getting the data for the science team on ground.
Thanks. Again, any more questions? Just Anya, there's one at the back.
Hello, I'm Pasquale Castellano. I work here at EAC. And so you have been talking about what you are looking forward to do, so what you can consciously reason about. But are your dreams during night also changing, since you know that you will go to space?
Oh, that's a great question. Let me think a little bit. Maybe not yet about the actual being there. There are dreams about training, though, when I've been doing something really intense. All of a sudden, I dream about something. But it's not, I still sleep very well, which is good. So I'll tell you afterwards if that started to happen closer to launch, like dreaming about the launch, or maybe more after, when you have experienced it and the brain actually has a concept of that. But interesting question. Not that I remember. It might happen still.
Thank you very much. We've got roughly 5 or so minutes left if there's another question. And I would certainly pass on a question again that I've seen discussed in the social media channels that we're looking after. Your role, you're an astronaut, you're obviously very focused now on training for an upcoming flight, and this, I'm sure, takes all your attention. At the same time, we know that astronauts, become ambassadors, for ESA, for national space agencies, and you're on the stage meeting with politicians and presidents and kings and queens and that sort of thing. Have you had time to pay attention to some of the bigger strategic questions and some of the bigger topics happening in spaceflight?
I have now being in it, I see more and more the details, and I also see what possibilities that we have that we're not exploring yet or exploring yet that we could do, especially with the strong organizations we have with all that competence, and we can do even more, or a lot more, to be honest. And actually having those discussions in the future with politicians or public in general will be great, because there are so many things that makes perfect sense to me in this, and when I have that feeling that it really makes sense and I really believe in it, I love when people challenge that, and when you get to discuss. Sometimes you learn that you're a little bit off, and of course then I'll adjust, but a lot of times I feel that you can actually communicate why it's important. And also talking about things like this, so this to me is not a 1 year thing, 2 year thing, 5 year thing, it's a generational thing, right? And when it comes to lifting your eyes towards the horizon and really work towards something further on, that's something that motivates me, and I think it should motivate every generation. And I think actually it's a responsibility we have. What if the generation before us, or 5 generations before us, or 10 just stopped? Right? I'm happy now. I'm not going to explore anymore. We would not be sitting here this way. So I think that's I don't want our generation to be that generation stopping. So that responsibility we have, and I think that's easy to communicate. And I love talking. So I'm looking forward to that role.
Great, thanks. Good. There's time for one more question if anyone wants to jump in. And if not, then I might maybe just pass back to Matthias. And maybe a final question, Matthias, when you're sitting in that launcher, you're strapped in, you're just about to lift off, what's going through your mind?
Well, when they tell you like you're going to fly on a used launcher, first you have your doubts. Say like, what? I don't get a new rocket, but I can tell you, like the Falcon 9 is very reliable, like space vehicle. It brought, like my used rocket brought me up to space. It landed later on. Then it brought, after 6 months, Samantha up to space. Exactly the same one. And so you will have a fabulous time up there. As I said, the only thing that I believe will be short, which you will be missing, will be sleep, because you want to make the most out of it. And I think it will be super exciting for you. Lots of science that you will do, lots of personal experiences that you will gain for yourself, and later on that you will share among the youth in Sweden and Europe, and you will become an ambassador, and you will do a great job. Yeah, so all the best.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you very much, Marcus and Matthias. And I'd like to bring the formal portion of our media briefing today to a close. And I'd like to say thank you very much to Matthias for moderating. And of course, best wishes to Marcus in all that's coming up.
Thank you.